I was the one who first proposed divorce, believing that a husband drowning in financial trouble had become a burden rather than a partner. But everything I thought I understood collapsed during a business trip, when my husband suddenly declared that he wanted a divorce. Not only that, he announced he had already married his mistress. As if that betrayal weren't enough, he accused me of marrying him for money and demanded that I give up all rights to our shared property. My name is Karen. I'm 35 years old. I was raised by my mother after my father passed away when I was still in kindergarten. We weren't wealthy, but we were happy. Even after I began earning a stable income as an adult, the habits of frugality and self-reliance stayed with me. I met John, a wealthy man, through a mutual acquaintance. I married him not for his money, but for his warmth and the unfamiliar world he introduced me to. That illusion didn't last long. After marriage, our differences became impossible to ignore. John believed a wife's place was at home. I believed in independence. Before we married, he suggested I quit my job and become a full-time homemaker. I compromised, insisting I would continue working until we had children. He reluctantly agreed. But reality was cruel. I worked full-time, yet every household responsibility fell on me. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, everything. John contributed nothing. He came home, ate dinner, and relaxed while I moved from one task to another, exhausted and invisible. Slowly, I began to wonder whether this was truly what marriage was meant to be. I wanted to speak up, but fear silenced me. I was afraid that if I complained, he would force me to quit my job altogether. I kept telling myself that things would change once we had children. But instead, we grew colder. One night, I gathered my courage. "John, don't you think we should start talking about having kids?" He scoffed. "Kids? You're still energetic enough to talk about that after work and chores?" "That's not the point. I want children. I'm already over 30. Women don't have unlimited time." He waved it off. "We don't need kids. If we had one, you'd expect me to help." "I won't." I stared at him in disbelief. "You're saying you won't help even before they're born?" "Raising children is your job. I earn the money. You'll just complain I don't help and make me look like the villain. You were raised poor, that's why you're obsessed with kids." "We're not poor. We don't need them. End of discussion." He walked away. I sat alone in the living room, crying, not just because he rejected my wish for a family, but because he mocked my upbringing. From that day on, our marriage collapsed. We barely spoke. I buried myself in work, taking on major projects, while the distance between us grew wider than ever. Then one day, I told him I had an upcoming business trip. Unexpectedly, he smiled. He wished me luck, and hinted that he had a big surprise waiting for me when I returned. I had already given up on him, yet that smile stirred a fragile hope. I shouldn't have believed it. When I came back, the front door wouldn't open. That was his first surprise. The locks had been changed. The second surprise came when he opened the door and calmly announced our divorce. He claimed he had already filed the papers, using my signature and a friend as a witness. Inside, he shoved a document toward me. "Sign this. You waive all rights to the property." I refused. I demanded mutual renunciation and insisted it be notarized. Annoyed, he rewrote the document on his computer, sneering at me the entire time. As I left, he mocked my poverty and even talked about throwing away my belongings. A few days later, my phone rang. It was John, panicked. "Do you know what you've done?" he demanded. "I haven't done anything," I replied calmly. "Why are you panicking?" "They told me to leave the apartment." "Oh," I said lightly. "You're still there? That's trespassing. It's a new month." "What are you talking about? That's my house." "No, it was a company apartment under my lease. You're not allowed to stay." "That's impossible. How could you do this?" "I'm surprised you didn't know. You also can't change the locks of a rental without notifying the management." He fell silent. "I also terminated the lease," I continued. "You altered someone else's property. That could be criminal damage." His voice trembled. "Is that why the police are at my door?" "Probably," I said. "It's best if you speak to them." "How did you know about the police?" "Because I reported you," I answered. "You forged my signature and the witness on the divorce papers. That's fraud." He gasped. "The divorce you filed is invalid," I added calmly. Which means your marriage to Susan can't happen either. How do you know about Susan? Did you really think I knew nothing? I said. I hired a private investigation agency. While you were busy staging a wedding, I was gathering evidence. There was silence. My business trip? I finished softly. It wasn't a lie. I took leave from work, even though I was swamped, to conduct research and prepare the documents I needed. I already knew about John bringing Susan home. Gathering proof while working full-time would have been impossible. After I revealed everything, John went silent, even over the phone. His usual arrogance had disappeared, replaced by a stunned, downcast tone. Then came his plea. Please, don't tell Susan I'm divorced. Why would I? There's no divorce to tell her about. I said calmly. That paper you filed? It's fake. Invalid. You're still legally my husband, and since you committed adultery while married, Susan owes reparation. I sent her the demand yesterday. He froze. She didn't know you were married? He asked, panicked. No, and I can't withdraw the claim now. It's too late. He hesitated, then said, shouldn't you be dealing with the police? Aren't you busy? I'll handle it, I replied. Ignore the police. I won't be arrested. You want to go to Susan's to intercept the letter? Good luck, you won't get it. He hung up. I knew exactly what he would do, rush to Susan's house, try to snatch the envelope from the postman. It was registered mail, meant for Susan only. No chance he'd succeed. Hours later, a frazzled John called. Finally, I'll take that envelope, he shouted. The postman was firm. Who are you? You don't live here. I'm practically a resident. I'm married. I can receive mail. No, this is registered mail for Susan only. I can't give it to you. What? Give it to me? Absolutely not. Ask her yourself. At that moment, Susan appeared. Oh, John, what's going on? The envelope, it's for you. He tried to take it. Sorry for the trouble. Susan's eyes widened. A demand for reparation? John, you were married? It's an old ex-wife. I didn't tell you I was divorced. Sorry, he stammered. Susan looked skeptical. But if you were divorced, there shouldn't be a problem. He blurted a lame excuse. My ex, she's crazy. Maybe she's demanding money out of spite. That lie didn't last. The envelope had my letter with my contact information. Susan called me directly. I told her everything, the affair, the fake divorce, and that their wedding ceremony had taken place while he was still married to me. Their marriage wasn't even registered yet. He had planned to file on April Fool's Day, but hesitated, unsure whether the divorce was truly final. Exposed, John fled Susan's house, then shamelessly called me. We agreed to meet at a nearby cafe. The moment I arrived, he begged. Karen, please withdraw the reparation claim. Let's pretend we've been separated for years and officially divorced now. I'll apologize to Susan. I cut him off. Do you think I'm desperate to stay married to you? I was going to file anyway. Since you cheated, you'll pay reparation. He sneered. You're just trying to extort me. Typical of the poor, with such a greedy heart. Don't talk nonsense. Depending on my answer, everything changes. You can't marry Susan without exposing your marital status. Defeated, he finally relented. Fine, I'll pay reparation. Just divorce me now. I slid the papers across the table. Sign here. And the property division? Property division? We already agreed to waive it. Reparation is enough. Let's make it official. He smirked weakly. You're not as bad as I thought. Thank you. We went to a public notary, finalized the reparation and property agreements, then submitted the divorce at City Hall. It was over. As we walked out, I exchanged final words. Glad we don't have to divide property, I said. What do you mean? I benefit from that, he muttered. By the way, do you even have anything left after paying reparation? Susan might charge you for the wedding expenses too. That's impossible, I said, with a quiet, victorious smile. I'm marrying Susan. Since there's no proof of divorce, there shouldn't be a problem, John said, smug as ever. I laughed coldly. Still living in a fantasy. You committed marriage fraud. You had a wedding while still married to me. Do you really think Susan still believes you? Marriage fraud? That's ridiculous. She'll believe me, he insisted. Believe that if you want. I spoke to Susan directly. And weren't the guests at your wedding paid actors? You still owe them, you know. He faltered. I haven't paid them yet. Exactly my point, I said. You could have taken property division and come out better off. That's what I wanted to tell you, he said hurriedly. Even if we'd split property, you would have benefited more. I shook my head. What are you talking about? Poor woman. Your family's poor, and you earn $155,000 a year, right? Even with a raise. Barely $20,000. No property. You keep calling me poor, so maybe you're mistaken. He blinked, shocked. Yes, my salary is $115,000. But you know I work for a foreign company, right? I'm the director of the American branch. It's not $115,000 per year, it's $155,000 per month. That's $8 million annually. John's jaw dropped. Wait, $180,000 a year? $8 million. Yes, I corrected. I've been saving everything since before our marriage. That's not even part of the property division. But since we were married, the amount grew significantly. Half of it would have been yours if I hadn't claimed reparation. He groaned. I'll correct the divorce papers. Correct? Are you okay after all the contempt I showed you? Do you think I'd undo the divorce gladly? Money isn't the point. This reparation is for the mental anguish you caused me. I could have claimed more. Honestly, make sure it's paid even in installments. I won't have a penny otherwise. And don't go back to that apartment. Your belongings should already be at your parents' house, I added. You thought I had few belongings? I'd already moved most of them. Indifferent, weren't you? So little is left? And your parents, they don't know yet, right? Let me explain. Don't. I've told them everything. They deserve to know why we're divorcing. And your father said, don't ever step over our threshold again. You have nowhere to go. He collapsed, defeated. I left the cafe. Later, I learned he caused chaos at the police station, ignoring my advice. He returned to the apartment, sat aimlessly, and was eventually removed by the authorities. Whether it was for obstructing duties, trespassing, or the falsified divorce papers, I didn't know. Eventually, his parents stepped in. After learning about Susan and speaking with me, they insisted on apologizing to her family and paying damages. They went to Susan's house, kneeling in front of her family, settling everything without pressing charges for the marriage fraud, and even covering the wedding expenses. I had expected them to sue. Their leniency was disappointing, but I pursued legal action for the forged divorce papers. John offered a settlement, but I refused. I wanted him convicted and made to understand the severity of his actions. I left everything to my lawyer, so it wasn't burdensome for me. In time, John was exposed at his company, unable to hide the scandal. He was fired after being detained by the police and absent without leave. He ended up living with his parents, working at a relative's construction company, and all his earnings were taken by his father. He survived on just $5 a day, in a tiny, shed-like space, until his debts were repaid, a harsh but deserved fate. Meanwhile, I advanced in my career. I was offered a position at the head office abroad and moved overseas. Free from the shadow of my ex, I found stability and love. I'm now dating a foreign executive who knows my past, supports me fully, and we're planning a family. He embraces co-parenting and paternity leave, showing me a life vastly different from the one I endured with John. After years of torment, I finally feel happiness and confidence. I'm building the family I've always dreamed of. Divorce isn't always the solution, but enduring in silence is never a virtue. Honest discussion matters, and sometimes, ending a marriage is the only way to reclaim your life.